Good morning, everybody out there in Facebook land. 57 degrees out here in Canton, Ohio. Yeah, we're in climate change, though the frequencies weren't that bad last night. I mean, I felt some energy. My dog was feeling some energy, but she's actually doing quite well considering that she has to deal with the sins of the father. And you know, when you realize that what I had to deal with the last 6 years is your future at a microbial level once you actually face the past. What my dog is dealing with is what some people who have undergone so many surgeries for cancer and tumors have to also deal with something like that, because you can't get away with shortcuts if you want to live beyond the life that's been given to you. And that's essentially the whole JJ world. And so yesterday was a major innovation, like major. It was an energetic innovation that was just above all else. And it's great because I got a confirmation, an allowance, a nod from my local government agency. And so I was never hiding what I was doing, but I didn't want to shock anyone with any pictures. But I still don't want to shock anyone with any pictures because people will be like freaking out. But a government agency did come in and assess the situation, and they know that I'm doing the best that I can, because you can't, at some point, you cannot use the medical holistic system anymore. At some point, you have to actually face the demons. And and then when you realize that you can survive cancer, disease, and chronic illness, then you're going to realize that the medical holistic system is not for your benefit, it's for their benefit. And that you were never told that you could actually survive all of your different diagnosable issues without going under the knife or taking some kind of anti-inflammatory. That you do have to face the demons, the sins of the father, so to speak. And it resides in your colon. And your body holds all that anomalous programming that is torturing you, which are the translational B cells that were not released or damaged, and they are causing your diseases. And so, and when you think about it, people don't get old; they're just starving. And I kind of said that in a roundabout way, but I also said, okay, aging out. But what is aging out? I mean, people don't even know what that means. Well, let's just call a spade a spade. People are starving. The skinny girls are starving out there. Like, seriously, the models are starving out there. Grandma and grandpa are starving. Even our poor queen or princess, or not princess, what do you call it? Duchess. She's skinny, she's beautiful, Princess Catherine, but she's also starving. I know she probably wishes she could have a big, huge hamburger, but she is put in a role to look like a specific way to be. And the population that admires the royalty and the celebrities want to then go and copy, because, of course, everyone's looking to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or feel some kind of validation from somebody else. And so they starve themselves and disfigure themselves in order to get that validation. And so then you have an aging population. Then you have Queen Camilla. Okay? King Charles, Queen Camilla. Nothing wrong with them, but they are the epitome of somebody who is starving and aging and happy about it. They are the representation of what they want humans to be, because when you have a family and you keep reproducing and nobody dies, then that's overpopulation. So in order for you to have a family, somebody and something has to die in that family, and usually it's mommy and daddy, grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles are being sacrificed for all the offspring. And that is a type of, I don't know, it's dying and reproducing, yes, but it's also fraught with pain and suffering and crime, because when people are in decline, they have medical issues, they turn to crime, they need so much assistance from the world around them, and they use up a lot of resources. And so while families are okay, it's managing the families that don't become out of control and destroy society in the process is what the system is trying to develop. And so then if they starve grandma and grandpa and mom and dad at their own hand, then nobody can say somebody did something to somebody else. They did it to themselves. And so now when you look at grandma and grandpa and your mom and dad and yourself, and you realize that you are denying yourself food, you're political about food, you're way too underweight for this aggressive climate change, and if you want to survive and prolong your life, you're going to have to gain some weight and realize that you're going to have to face your demons. And if you don't, and your kids are taking cues from you, what kind of future do your children have if you can't even survive climate change? Or you survive it for such a certain amount of time and then you expire prematurely. What do you mean prematurely? Well, relative prematurely, because you could have had a longer life if you gained some weight and faced your demons and didn't turn to the aggressive, violent medical holistic system. Because many people will not be able to come back from that because the pain will be too great when they want to become whole again. And so people don't get old, nor do animals. They are starving because they have been fostering competition in their body that eventually you're going to have to face and deal with and feed. And so the trauma of surgery and anti-inflammatories and remedies have caused people to be competing with life in their body that they never assimilated to. And so when you're taking all of your remedies, when you're taking all your anti-inflammatories, and you're around your friends and family who are giving you all of their mucus, and then their mucus and your mucus fornicate and develop an offspring, where does that offspring go? What does that offspring do? Does it have a purpose? Does it have guidance? Or is it just floating around in your system, fornicating with other things and causing massive replication? And in a closed system, there's so much fornication, so much offspring, then it becomes a problem called a diagnosable condition. And then it's a competing life force that you now have to deal with. My dog is dealing with a competing life force in her body. Hey, John. Hey, Audrey. Okay? And she has to deal with it. She can't do any more surgeries. That's the thing. And so people are going to realize that when you can't afford to do any more surgeries, either you rest in peace and die, or you finally face the demons and feed the body and release and rest and finally change your politics, religion, and science so you can survive this next world. Because even your politics, religion, and science will say what you're doing is unethical, amoral, against God. And so then you have it in your head to then destroy yourself through your own belief system. That's how brainwashing and propaganda can be stronger than someone coming in and forcing you to do something. And that's really quite interesting how psychological operations have caused populations to self-destruct, caused cultures to self-destruct, caused people in their religions to self-destruct. And since I was raised by a psychotherapist, I have firsthand knowledge because I've had it done to me. Not that it was anything bad, but it was just part of the culture. It's still part of the culture. We have many people who have high-level degrees that are doing manipulation to their children, everyone around them, getting them on board to be in self-destruct. Then you have religions that do that. And then you wonder why people are going off the deep end when your own religion is what causing you to self-destruct and destroy yourself with devices, with oncology, with remedies and surgeries and all that stuff. And then they're all heavily into the activist world, blaming someone when they don't realize that they're the one that put themselves into every single one of these oncological remedy, medical type of situation. And so somebody out there is looking at everybody who's doing this and they're laughing their asses off. I know the CIA and MI6 and all of those, that Rand Corporation, Raytheon, all that stuff, the think tanks, they're laughing their fucking asses off because they know what they developed. They know what they did to the population for many years. That's the reason why we're in climate change. We're in a great reset. Somebody had to have known something. Okay, so it's time to get a little smarter than the system, because you can't afford not to be. I mean, I guess you can. I guess if your life doesn't really mean anything to you and your kids' lives don't mean anything to you, yeah, do what you got to do. But, I'm telling you, there's another way. There is a totally another way. And so my dog Sugar is proof that you can't cunt something out and then expect to live and be whole in the future and not deal with it at some point. And yeah, you're going to look a little crazy and it will be unsightly, but you can't attack the other entity. You have to allow the system, your system, to dissolve it naturally and let it release. And so, yeah, when you have a tumor or a cancer or a cyst or anything like that, you have to let your body system, your immune system, when you're feeding it, go and transition those cells, convert them, and then let the body release them through all the different exit points. And even at the site of where that trauma is, if it has to leak, it has to leak. And you put a bandage on it and you keep it clean and you watch over it. A little salt and water. Nothing antibiotic, because you're not trying to destroy anything or create anything more, detrimental. But now you're going to realize that the medical holistic system is going to back you into a corner. And so at some point, you're going to have to deal with that foreign entity within you that's running you and causing all of your stress and politics, religion, and scientific dogmas. And so, yeah, the releasing process could be seepage, pee, poo, and everything else, sweat. And so the medical and the holistic system are unnatural. And they cause people major issues when they finally want to do something on their own, when they want to be whole again. And so I knew the naturopathics were no different than the allopathics. I knew that the holistic system was no different than the medical system. Even the veterinary system are the same thing as the medical system. They butcher animals, they butcher people. And so finally, when you want to break free from the system, you got to pay the fucking piper. And yeah, it can be painful. It doesn't have to be as painful if you know how to manage it. I set my dog up correctly because as she was declining and I didn't know that I had to feed her the baby food, I was giving her people food, milk and meat, eggs and everything under the sun. And she was eating her milk bones when she was, losing her appetite for her regular dog food. And then when she was going into the bathtub looking for water, completely uncharacteristic of her behavior, given that she was afraid of water for many years from a past trauma, I realized that now she was declining and she was losing those traumatic memories, which is good, but she was going back down to a juvenile state, but then that could also then cause her to die if she doesn't get fed the food to feed the babies that are now running her. Because that cyst, that tumor that they cut out a long time ago, woke up. That was the beast that woke up. And it wasn't rearing its ugly head too much until I started power feeding her. Once I started actually feeding my animal, the cyst started growing. And so did my animal. My animal was growing with the cyst. Then I realized you can't do any more surgeries or else it'll regrow again when you keep feeding the animal. Because she could have died back in November if I had power fed her through a bottle. She could have died. And people do allow their animals to die if they don't know enough to put meat and milk and fruits and vegetables and whatever and carbs in a bottle, in a blender, grind it up, and then bottle feed the animal and keep them alive. People don't know this, so their animal starves. Their children starve. They starve because they don't know any better. And we're not taught this. No, because we've been so dependent on the medical holistic system, veterinary system, butchering us periodically throughout our life until there's nothing, till we can't come back from it. And some people are too far gone. And it sucks because they hear this information and they want to do it, but they are in for a fucking hell of a ride. If they even can handle it, or their friends and family can handle it. Let me tell you, your friends and family will stop you before. If you have very influential people in your world that can't handle watching something change and go through an evolution. Shit, my trolls who are not even in my house can't even watch me go through an evolution, much less my animal. So imagine what your friends and family are going to do. They will undermine the fuck out of you. And I've seen it, and I've heard it, and I know it, and that's why I can't compete with your circle of people. Either you're strong enough to extricate yourself from those influences, or you will go down with everybody else. And so my dog is proof that eventually you're going to have to pay the piper for everything you did to your body in a violent manner. All the PTSD, the trauma, the surgeries, everything you cut out, you will have to revisit. Because you can't get away with doing shortcuts without paying the piper in the future. If you want to live beyond the life that was given to you by your government and the medical holistic system. So remember, somebody gave you life. Now it's up to you to sustain it. Because the government's not going to keep, feeding you anymore. When you think about it, feeding you all the remedies. Oh, yeah, they'll feed you the remedies, but they'll also up the ante and up the climate change and cause all of your issues to come to surface. And then you'll be at the medical system getting all your prescription drugs and your surgeries like there's no tomorrow. And you will take so many antibiotics that you will convert yourself out of existence. And that's exactly the intention. Because climate change does that. Climate change brings up everything that you've ever ignored. And it happened with my dog. She's fucking proof. I'm proof too. The last 2 years, all of my predisposed issues that were under wraps from the JJ juice came to surface. And I had to deal with all of my predisposed issues the last 2 years. And I faced the fucking demons. And let me tell you, this last summer, I was so angry. So angry. Because how I felt for that week. And the grip it had on me for that week. I was so fucking angry at the medical and the holistic system for doing this to all of you and to me, where I had to go through that hell. But it was paying for the sins of the father. Because it wasn't just, my antibiotic usage when I had pneumonia back in 1975. It was also whatever my parents used from their local shaman in Vietnam on themselves, because I inherited all the genes from my parents. And so what were they doing in Vietnam as far as remedies? I'm sure they were using roots and berries and bark and remedies and all that stuff, and that would then cause more aggressive, anomalous, genetic predisposed issues that I would get and inherit, and then it'd be compounded by modern medicine. And so, yeah, you're going to see a lot of people euthanizing themselves and euthanizing their animal because they can't handle the pain of coming back from their Botox, coming back from their surgeries, coming back from all the different medical intervention. People are going to be euthanizing their animals and themselves because they can't handle the pain. And they'll euthanize themselves with prescription medication, with countless surgeries. And so, yeah, when you are putting yourself in oncology, that's a type of slow euthanizing type of mercy killing, because you're destroying life. And so when you put yourself out there into oncology and taking the remedies and surgeries, you can't blame anyone but yourself for euthanizing yourself. But again, that's all psychological operations. Somebody told you to euthanize yourself. But to enjoy the decline. Because even again, children are declining when they have predisposed issues that are not being redirected aggressively in an aggressive environment. So even children are in decline unless you as a parent understand how to redirect. And people don't. Luckily, a few of my JJ crowd understand, and they will do whatever they can to redirect the trajectory. But a lot of people out there, they have kids that are on the same trajectory as they are on, and when the environment is that aggressive, the predisposed issues that the parents gave to the children will come that much faster. Because everybody is now competing on a level playing field. You're all getting the same frequencies. But some of you don't have what it takes to deal with them, and so you will decline faster than maybe your counterpart or your husband or your wife or your mom or your dad. That's the sad part of it, is that we have kids that just came into this world who are at a major deficit, have predisposed issues, probably would have come along slower in a slower environment, but in climate change, their predisposed issues will be coming in faster, and the parents will use antibiotics and other types of surgeries and then decline and euthanize their own child. That's what you're facing, parents, in climate change and partaking in the medical holistic system. And that is a hard pill to swallow, of which doesn't win me a lot of reviews because people don't like hearing the truth about that. Because they know they're doing the same thing to themselves, to their children, to their husband, to their wife, to their mom, and to their dad. Starving everybody, euthanizing everybody with surgeries and remedies and oncology. And just because you survived oncology, you know other people have not survived. People that didn't survive oncology, they had less body mass index than the other person. That's why they didn't survive oncology. So when you're watching a thin woman go through the trauma of oncology and radiation and chemotherapy, and then she ends up in a GoFundMe account because the next of kin need help with funeral services, then you realize the kind of shit you're dealing with. Oh, but I survived chemotherapy and radiation. Yeah, because you weigh 200 pounds and that girl weighed only 100 pounds. That's why you fucking survived the treatments, because you weighed more. But then when you keep taking those treatments and you're 180 pounds and you keep starving yourself, look at yourself in 10 years. It's going to be pretty grim for some people in the next 5 or 10 years after all their treatments and their starvation. So don't think you bought yourself really that much time, because climate change is only heating up. The particles are going to get faster, and then your predisposed issues are going to come back again. That's what people don't think. They're like, oh, I don't. And so just remember, somebody gave you life, and now it's up to you to sustain it, because the government will not keep sustaining life that absolutely has no regard for it. People take their life for granted. They want to do the shortcuts. They take their kids to the medical, holistic, get everything sucked out, tweaked out, whatever, surgically taken out, and they expect to live a long fucking life. And then when their kid or themselves can't survive the next therapy, the next remedy, the next surgery, then they want to go and blame someone. When you put yourself in the medical holistic system, you put your child in the medical holistic system, and they didn't survive the treatments, because you didn't want to learn anything about yourself or your body or your children's body, because it was easier just to give your body away to science and let them experiment on you and your children. So people take their life for granted. My dog doesn't take her life for granted because she just wants to live. Owners of animals take their animals' lives for granted. And when I'm reading the reviews of the shelter, somebody wanted the shelter to euthanize their dog because they didn't have the money for shots and veterinary care. And so they wanted a mercy killing on an animal that was not sick beyond the point of vet care, because they didn't want to take care of them, even though they say it was well loved. That makes me sick. But again, many animal lovers out there are the same way. They think killing something is better because they can't take care of it, and they think that's the best thing. Well, if you can't take care of an animal for worse, only for better, then you have a disposable life. You think all life is disposable, then there is no regard for life. And that's why they are guiding reproduction carefully, because we have so many backyard breeders. We have so many people who just have a billion kids, and they're not going to teach our kids anything different than what they're doing and what kind of future those kids have. Now, I'm not talking about anyone specific, but there are a lot of people out there that have a billion kids, a bunch of kids, and they are giving their kids away to the medical system. And these kids have predisposed issues from their parents, and no one's redirecting. So what kind of future do these kids have? So I'm telling you, the world is fucked out there. So I'm actually really happy that Shane came into my house and saw how my husband and I lived, saw Sugar on her little poof bed, sleeping very silently, very calmly. She wasn't suffering like everyone wants to fucking make it out to be. I showed him everything that I was doing because I care about my animal. I care about my husband. I care about the people who care about themselves. Okay? When people don't care about themselves, I can't really care about them either. They expect me to care about them when they don't care about themselves. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I can't care about you and then have you not care about yourself. So that's why I don't have many friends. Because many people don't care about themselves and they want me to care about them. Well, it's very difficult to do that. And so what do? I take care of my animal because I give a shit about her. Let me tell you, when I look in her face and she's so sweet, and I'm putting a little olive oil and a little bit of salt on her cyst, and I'm rubbing it and massaging it, I'm like, you gotta respect life. Because eventually it will go down. It's just gonna take some time. And so people who think their lives and their animals' lives are expendable will demonize someone like me who will make them look bad. I'm not trying to make anyone look bad. I'm trying to make the world a better place because it's fucked out there. So many people are suffering endlessly and needlessly because they were never taught to deal with hardships on their own. They were always taught to go find somebody to go and save them. I called the Humane Society on myself because I knew somebody out there was going to cause me a little bit of a headache. And so I said, you know what? I'll face this fucking demon. Yeah, I got an email from one of my trolls says, oh yeah, I reported you. And like, okay, I will call the fucking Humane Society myself and I will tell them exactly what I'm doing, that there are extremists out there do this, this, and this. And sure enough, a couple days later. And so, if you don't face the demons, then you will forever be fucking hiding. The people are always hiding behind the medical, the holistic, and authority. And then when they can't handle their fucking problems anymore and their kids die and they die, then they want to go and blame someone because they were never taught to face the fucking demons head on. Intellectually, physically, financially. It's always somebody else that either saves them or somebody else's fault for having them be in the situation. And that's why people are suffering endlessly and needlessly. And so right now, it's a period of transition. And it's an extremely hard one because people are going to have to change their ways and they will begin to realize how they've been taught to destroy life at any given moment as soon as it starts to evolve and change. And so I feel sorry for some of those that are children of parents who don't want their kids to change and evolve. That when a kid tries to become independent or be their own person and the mother or the father is like, oh my God, Johnny, Billy, Susie, you can't do that. You can't be Jewish or Christian or Muslim or this. You can't be an artist. You can't be this. You can't be whatever. And they browbeat their child and try to keep them within a very narrow point of view. And so those poor children have no chance to really spread their wings. And they already have predisposed issues from their parents. So what kind of future does that kid have? Not everybody was lucky like me that was adopted by scientists. That, yeah, it was pretty tough. It was a tough childhood, but let me tell you, it gave me this background. It gave me the capacity to deal with hardship and face it head on and not be afraid of what might happen. Because let me tell you, when I lied to my mom on a Friday about my homework, knowing that she's going to find out I lied to her on Monday, I spent 2 days knowing that I'm going to be punished the next week, but I enjoyed those 2 days. And so that built up my capacity to face fear and sit with it. Sit with the fear of what might happen and what actually did happen. Oh, I got in trouble. But that's the thing. That's how you stretch your capacities, when you can sit with with feeling like, that something's going to happen, and that you can survive it. But why would you torture yourself like that? Because we all are going to be faced with the fears of somebody telling on us, or something happens like financial ruin or a fire, or, an accident, or somebody or something dying, and you don't think you can handle it. But when you sat with facing hardships or fear of something that might happen or will happen, and you survive that situation, and you have just stretched your capacity to deal with something that wasn't as bad as you thought it was. Because again, I was like, hey, if I'm going to be punished for this, then you better fucking kill me, because I can handle the pain of spankings. I can handle the pain of humiliation. I can handle the pain of what might happen. Oh, I'm going to go to fucking jail for what? I can handle the pain of fear. That's how people have been controlled, is through fear of what might happen, the fear of the worst case scenario. I prepare for the worst case scenario. And I also make sure I'm working within the confines of the law. Natural law and man-made law. If you don't know the laws, you'll believe all the stories. If you don't know man-made law or natural law, you will believe all the fucking stories out there. And then you want someone to save you, and you want someone to blame. And so the saviors out there have a huge blame game. And that's what The Walking Dead was all about. The saviors will save you to death and say they saved you. And they will also blame you for them having to save you, and then having you die from their saving you. But they'll blame you for it, for their causing you death or destruction. That's how fucked it is out there. That's how fucked it is in politics, religion, and scientific dogmas. When you are turning to a savior and then blaming, and turning right around and blaming somebody else for your misfortunes. That's why I don't have a religion. I don't have a political persuasion. I don't even have a scientific dogma. I just promote life and release life if it's too much. But I don't attack it. I don't try to make life difficult for somebody else. I just do whatever I can to keep my dog alive, myself alive, and help my husband out as much as I can, as much as he'll let me. And that's the extent of it. What you do with your stuff is none of my business. And so, yeah, this period of transition is an extremely hard one, because people are going to have to change the way they do things and realize that they do destroy life. And so I know I will not be popular, because most of the people out there in this world don't regard life as precious until it's convenient for them. And when it's not convenient for them, then life isn't precious. It's expendable, and it needs to be euthanized. And that's the selective belief systems of, yeah, life is precious, but your baby's life is precious, your kid's life is precious, but grandma and grandpa, yeah, they're expendable. And they have the most freaking innovation. They have the most knowledge. So we're putting all of our eggs in a child's basket who have absolutely no fucking life experience? Isn't that a little backwards? Hey, Audrey, it's a little fucking backwards. I would rather put all my eggs in a grandma's basket, evolve her, than put my eggs in a child's basket. We have it fucking backwards. Parents don't revere themselves, they revere their children. And they sacrifice themselves for their children, and their children don't have any fucking life experience, so they're getting brainwashed by the system. And the parents have no regard for themselves. None. Oh, I see it all the time. Oh, it's all about Johnny, Billy, and Susie. My children are everything. I gotta give them everything. They can't handle the world. They don't have what it takes, because you couldn't handle the fucking world. You're dying. And so, yeah, in a closed system, injecting bacteria to go and disassemble cancer, tumors, and all that is just another temporary cure that eventually will metastasize and turn against you. And so these cancer cures using vaccines are great for an open system, but if you have an open system, then you can develop your own immunity, and you don't need the vaccines to go and kill off the cancer cures. You wouldn't get cancer if you had an open system. But the reason why people have cancer, disease, and chronic illness because they have a closed system, and so they have to turn to these fucking injections. But if you have an open system, you wouldn't need vaccines and you wouldn't need remedies. You wouldn't have all the pain and the suffering. And so that's why I'm advocating an open system, because at some point, somebody's got to say, hey, somebody's making too much money off your kids, off of you, off your pain and your suffering. And it's time that somebody has to go and redirect humans so they can finally be a little bit independent of the system and prolong their fucking life and give something to the future. And so babies have parent cells and transitional B cells. Disease, you're full of transitional B cells. Cancer is the body trying to convert from the juvenile to maturity. And yeah, it's painful. And so when you starve cancer disease, when you starve yourself or be political about food because you don't like the feelings of it, you starve your children and you starve yourself and then you die from don't survive a sudden event. And so when you practice a closed system, those cells will destroy you unless you know how to release and mature. And so, yeah, the beta cells are what is causing your cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders and your depression and all the things out there that are causing people pain and suffering. Because you have a closed system, you're not releasing, and you're not maturing. You are starving / aging. Aging is starving. And so, yeah, so the nutritionists are starving you. The cancer, the whole cancer culture is starving people. The medical holistic system is starving people. The MLMers are starving people. All the doctors are starving people because they're not feeding you food. They're taking food away and giving you medicine. And then wonder why you can't handle your fucking life in the next 5 or 10 years. And why you attack somebody else for trying to turn the system around because they're seeing what they're doing to you and your friends and family. I don't want to come off as a savior. I'm trying to save myself. But I'm cluing you in on the intentions of the system. And it's in plain fucking sight. It's not hidden. But again, psychological operations, you've been brainwashed by your politics, your religion, and definitely your scientific dogmas. Everything's great until it's not. And so, at some point, somebody has to be that pioneer in that family. In the JJ world, you have a chance to be a pioneer and save yourself and potentially save your kids. But you have to save yourself first. You can't save your kids before you save yourself because you don't know what the fuck to do. Because saving yourself means you have to face so many demons. The reason why my dog is surviving her cyst is because I knew how to pull out my own poop. And I knew how to express her anal glands and pull out her programming too. And let her body release and regenerate and become the dog that she was meant to be. But I had to go through the process of understanding all of my system. And yeah, you've been scared away from your sphincter. Absolutely. Poop is nothing but processed food that your body had to go and use up the resources and release what it didn't need. That's all poop is. People are so afraid of poop. Dog poop is really not that bad. When you're feeding what you're feeding your animal and you smell the food that you fed your animal in the poop, it's not that bad. I don't see any crazy things in her poop. But the science always studies feces and poop to understand what runs an animal, what runs that biodiversity. And so when you're not afraid of poop, and you're not afraid of your own waste material, and you're not afraid of your animal's waste material, then you have tremendous control over yourself and your animal, and you have tremendous control over your lifespan. And then you know how to survive climate change and even predisposed issues. And you'll save yourself. But when you're afraid of your butthole, when you're afraid of poop, when you're afraid of blood, when you're afraid of mucus, when you're afraid of all bodily fluids, yeah, you'll give yourself away to somebody else who will take your resources and then say, okay, you're expendable. See you later. It was fun. Thanks for shopping. So I'm not anyone else's commodity anymore. Now I'm a free citizen in a society that is commodifying itself. But I'm a free citizen. because I have control over my own body and my dog's body. And she will not ever partake in the medical, holistic, veterinary system ever again. She won't need to. She was given her 9 lives, and now the 10th life she has to deal with herself. And when she deals with herself and she becomes a strong dog she was meant to be, she'll never ever have to visit the medical system unless there's a freak accident and she falls off the roof. But how she'd get on the roof would be a whole different story. Because she has fallen before and she didn't break anything. You know why? Because I've been feeding her milk and meat, cheese, people food. And so she has strong bones. Because she could have plenty of times broken things. But she hasn't. There's a reason why. My dog is fucking resilient because I take care of her. And so you have broken bones and you have sprains and all that stuff is because you're malnourished. And malnourished people fall apart. And then they blame everyone around them for why they've fallen apart. And so now it's time to redirect. Now it's time to redirect. And it's not going to be easy. Because many people will resist redirecting because they have to justify why they are deteriorating. Because they don't have the support system around them to help them go through the process. And that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry that you don't have a good group of friends and family. I'm sorry you don't have a support system that will help you transition. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. You're the one that wanted all your friends and family, your religion, your politics, your religion, and scientific dogmas. You wanted to have so many influential people that will then keep you in line. You wanted that. Well, then you made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. Lay in it. Whatever. But you wanted that kind of life. You wanted the validation from so many people. You wanted all of that. You thought it was the great thing, next thing to sliced bread. And so when I'm saying, you know what, I need to extricate myself from those influential forces because I know they're going to work against me, especially when I want to evolve, I walk the fuck away. And yeah, I got flack for it. I got so much flack for it. That's how strong the influences in your world, with your family, your friends, acquaintances, even your occupation, they will destroy you if they're given the opportunity, because they won't let you change. They won't let you evolve. And if you allow them to stop you from evolving, then you have no one to blame but yourself, because you wanted all the baubles, all the validation, all the attention from your friends and family. You wanted all their help. You wanted all their money and their resources and the birthday parties and the gatherings and the dinners and all that shit. Well, it comes at a price, because they will take you down with them, and they won't blink an eye. They won't care, because they're not the ones that have to live your life or suffer or not suffer. They just want your fucking resources. And then when you don't have any more, then you're expendable. That's the truth about friends and family and social acquaintances, is that you're only good for what they can give you until they can't give it to you anymore, and then there's nothing. You're not worth anything to them when they can't get anything off of you. When your knowledge is not as important as the fucking material items that they're looking for. I've had that from a friend a long time ago, that when she bought me a Victoria's Secret robe, which I still have today actually, and I didn't have much money back then, and so I bought her a candle, okay, and it was just what I had at the time, right? She's like, you bought me a candle and I bought you a robe. And so our friendship was only as good as the fucking gifts that I was or was not giving her. And so our friendship ended. Right then and there, I was like, holy shit. She got pissed off that I bought her a candle when she bought me a Victoria's Secret robe that was $50. And I spent maybe $10. That's a lot of the friends and acquaintances out there. You're only good as much as whatever you can give them, whatever they can get off of you materially. They can give a fuck about knowledge or change or evolution. They just like the material shit. And sorry, I'm not about that. And that's when I realized that friends and family and acquaintances that depend upon you for resources don't really regard you as someone, as a human. They regard you as a resource. And so I redefine what friendship and family and meaningful relationships are. It's not about material bullshit. It's not about saving someone or blaming someone. It's representation of evolution, that you can survive it and develop your own resources so you don't rely on somebody else to validate you for every fucking thing in the world. And that's not popular. So anyways, I'm gonna go. My dog was up early and I have a bunch of pee pads in the bathroom, so she went to the bathroom in the bathroom on the pee pads. I fed her some food upstairs and she's back on the bed just sleeping. I put some olive oil and salt on her little cyst, and so it's doing nicely, and life is fine. And so I have a lot of material for the next book, Giving Birth to Yourself. I didn't have this information prior to the last book that I have, but this last book that I wrote definitely developed a groundwork for you to work from. And so what I'm doing now is for my next book. All right, so you guys have a good day. Thanks for listening. I needed to get this out as far as just processing the last month or so. And everything that happened for a reason. And so now I can kind of breathe a sigh of relief and not be afraid to really show what's going on. Though I don't really want to shock anyone still. I'll wait till it's her cyst is down, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Though some people have screenshotted some of the Facebook lives where you can kind of see it and then superimposed it, and that's what the Humane Society showed me. They showed me all the emails from the people. I'm like, oh, okay. That was predictable. That person was predictable. But yeah. So anyways, yeah. So life is doing fine. And remember, at some point, you're going to have to feed your body baby food. You're going to have to put your dinner and your breakfast and your lunch in a blender. At least half of it. Okay? To feed your transitional juvenile cells. And you have to also pull out the old fecal programming to make room for the new world, the new environment. You're going to have to do that if you want to survive this. And I know it's not glamorous, but I wrote my book, okay, with a chapter that says, the next chapter, the Jilly Juice journey, the conversion process. My conversion process the last 6 years of my life, the Jilly Juice recipe, alimentary canal pain and diaphragmatic digital release. So you understand what I did on a daily basis to transition to this new world. And I talk about climate change and my introduction of myself, the Rosicrucian order, diversity, introducing an open system. And it's a short read. I mean, it's not too wordy. This is really easy. It's a very easy book to read. Okay? And so everyone should have at least some exposure to this. Even though that book is $20 and then the hardback is like $30, but the ebook is like $5. No one should have any excuse not to be exposed to this kind of information because I've made it very inexpensive. If you don't really know who I am, then you can do the ebook. And if you want to have a physical copy of it, then you can get paperback or hardback for your own library to then lend out to everyone and their mother. So they don't have to buy it if they don't want to. But if they do want their own copy, then they can buy their own copy. And so, yeah, this information is affordable and it's accessible to everyone. in whatever form. And I made it that way because I know what people are up against financially and whatever else. So, have a good day, guys. You deserve another thought process, another truth. You deserve it. I'm done with the fucking medical holistic system. I'm done with corporate greed. There's ways to make money without sacrificing children and animals and grandma and grandpa. There's other ways to make money besides that. All right, bye.